I got started in waterfowl hunting as a young guy. Early in the age, we had rabbits, we had pheasants and deer. We never had the waterfowl. So waterfowl didn't come to my later years of my life because we just didn't have the population. When I shot my first Canada goose, that was it. That was in South Michigan on a hunt when I was about 19, 20 years old. And we had the geese that were coming through, and I had a goose call that I had bought from what brand store it was, and practiced on it and watched the flock of geese turn. They turned and came over low and dropped that first goose. I knew from that day I'm going to be a goose hunter. Back in that day, there was a few call companies out there. Being in manufacturing, design, and stuff like that, I was always trying to design something a little bit better. Because I loved and was so intrigued with waterfowl, whether the duck and goose, I set out the job of trying to design I thought was the ultimate short reed goose call. Years of guiding, we had some great days, and there was a lot of clients, and a lot of guys today are good friends. And so a lot of people, they measure their hunts by the numbers as would be the success. But you know what? To be honest with you, the most memorable hunt I ever had in my life was taking my 3 kids, and I was babysitting. And my daughter was in grade school, and the other 2 weren't old enough to be in school. And we were sitting in a pit, and I was babysitting my kids in the pit, and my daughter was spotting the geese, and I was calling them in and shooting them. And to this day, my kids still talk, and that to me was the most memorable hunt that I've ever had. In the outdoors, no doubt, was my father. My father was an outdoorsman. He was a very gifted teacher. He had a lot of patience, and you know what? I learned so much from my dad, and he taught me how to have respect for the game that we hunted. And the biggest thing is my dad, being in the Coast Guard and was a cop, he was a law-abiding man, and we were taught that the game laws and that we abide by everything. And absolutely, he was my biggest influence in the outdoors. Without a doubt, my mother. My dad was a good man, and back in those days, you didn't have mother and father working. My dad was the man who worked 1 or 2 jobs to keep food on the table. My mother, she was there, and there's many times I can remember my mother helping me drag my deer in, help me gut my deer. I used to bring my game in, my mother would help me clean it, cook it, and without a doubt, my mother was my biggest inspiration. It's very humble. I'm telling you what, I've watched this industry grow from nothing to what it is today. There's so many people, and there's great people out there. What I love about the outdoor group and our relationship coming together is that I've always had pride of trying to make the best product I could, being respectful, putting the best team together, using the best components. Everything we did, it was always important to me to have the best product because people work hard for their money. And and when I got with the outdoor group, I met a group of guys that had the same philosophy as me, that these guys work for a living. These guys all loved their families. These guys had great work ethics, and they have a passion for what they do. They love the outdoor industry. They love the outdoors as much as I do. And it's just been a great combination, a great flow, and it's been a great synergy. First advice, get off the internet. I've seen too many of these guys they get on there and they talk. They're trying to learn from what they can on the internet, but my best advice is get outdoors, get in the field, experience. You cannot be out in the field experiencing firsthand whether you're making your mistakes or you're learning. We learn from our mistakes. You're not going to learn on the internet. Get out there, call your birds, be out in the field as much as you can. And also, try to get with somebody who knows what they're doing. Tag along with them, and then shut your mouth and listen to what they're saying, and go from there. Yeah, number one, trying to get better, you've got to have a good instrument. And, I use an analogy that Ted Nugent couldn't be Ted Nugent on a cheap guitar. He's playing a good guitar. You got to have a good instrument. So go out there and try to buy the best goose call that you can afford at that time. And Everybody started on a cheap call. We all did. And we ended up with a drawer full of $20 calls. If we'd have just had someone that we went to that knew what they were saying, knew a little bit about calling, and said, hey, you know what? You're going to spend maybe $100 for a call that is tuned, that you're going to be able to operate. And then get with somebody who can know your level and get you to practice the right things. And one of my analogies I've used for a long time, whether it's in sports or in waterfowl hunting, whatever, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. Make sure you're doing the right thing and then stay with it.